Some of the greatest movie moments of all time were never supposed to happen. They weren't written, they weren't planned, they were just accidents caught on camera. Today we're breaking down 7 levels of movie improvisation, from tiny ad-libs nobody notices to moments so powerful they change film history forever. Let's get into it. Level 1. Django Unchained. In this revenge Western movie, a freed slave teams up with a bounty hunter to rescue his wife from a brutal Mississippi plantation. During the tense dinner at Candyland, Calvin Candy, the sadistic plantation owner, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, delivers an intense monologue about race and status. His speech gets so intense that he actually slams his hand down on the table and cuts it on broken glass. That was real blood, real pain, and you can see it on his face for a split second. But DiCaprio doesn't break. He keeps going like a Chad. And wait till you find out what he did later that made this scene one of the best ever acted. Movie director Tarantino kept the scene in the film because it was too powerful to cut. The violence wasn't theoretical anymore. It was right there, dripping onto the table. What was even mind-blowing is Leonardo DiCaprio smears the blood dripping on his hand on Kerry Washington's face later in the scene to make it even more epic. In my opinion, what makes this scene an absolute cinema is DiCaprio's commitment. Most actors would have broken character, asked for medical attention, reset the scene, but DiCaprio used the accident to deepen Candy's monstrousness. I think this is one of the gutsiest moves an actor has ever made on camera, but if you think staying in character through real blood is impressive, wait until you see what happens when an actor turns a technical mistake into pure genius. The 40-Year-Old Virgin. This raunchy comedy follows a middle-aged electronics store employee who's never had sex and gets questionable advice from his coworkers. In the chest waxing scene, Andy Stitzer, played by Steve Carell, is getting his hairy chest waxed. But here's the thing, Carell's reactions aren't acting, they were real. Director Judd Apatow made the craziest decision to actually wax Carell's chest for authenticity, and when the wax strips start coming off, oh boy. Carell's screams were genuine panic. He yelled everything from bull crap to Kelly Clarkson. Why Kelly Clarkson? Carell has no idea. His brain was searching for anything to yell that wasn't a curse word, and somehow the American Idol winner's name came out. They set up cameras from multiple angles because they knew they'd only get one take. The other actors, Paul Rudd, Romany Malco, and Seth Rogen, were supposed to stay in character and continue their conversation, but they couldn't contain their laughter, which was also real. They weren't expecting Carell to commit that hard. And Apatow kept rolling because he knew this was lightning in a bottle. You can't recreate real pain, and you can't script genuine panic. That authenticity made the scene legendary, and turned a simple grooming joke into one of comedy's most memorable moments. I respect method acting, but man, torturing yourself for a comedy, that's crazy dedication. But physical pain is just one level. What happens when an actor adds something so special that it changes the entire character? Let's take a look as we climb to our next level. Level 2. The Godfather. In this crime epic, the aging patriarch of a powerful mafia family reluctantly passes control to his youngest son. In the opening scene, Vito Corleone, the Godfather, played by Marlon Brando, listens to the Undertaker's plea for justice, but the cat wasn't planned. It was a stray wandering around the Paramount lot the morning of the shoot. Director Francis Ford Coppola saw it, picked it up, and handed it to Brando right before they started filming. No rehearsal, no discussion, just, here, hold this. And Brando, being Brando, just rolled with it. He started stroking the cat absent-mindedly while listening to The Undertaker. The cat purrs so loudly during the scene that some of Brando's dialogue had to be looped later in post-production. But that cat changed everything about how we perceive Vito Corleone. It made him seem more complex, gentle with the cat, but brutal with his enemies. What most people don't know is that the cat became so comfortable that it almost fell asleep during filming, so Brando had to occasionally squeeze it gently to keep it from going completely limp. That tenderness, even with an animal, added another layer to the character. Vito isn't just pretending to be civilized. He genuinely has the capacity for gentleness, and that makes his capacity for violence even more disturbing. Honestly, this might be the luckiest accident in film history. Adding props is one thing, but let's talk about what happens when a character's movement is completely changed. Dark Knight. In this dark superhero thriller, Batman faces his ultimate test, when a psychotic criminal mastermind, Joker, pushes Gotham City to its breaking point. During the hospital explosion scene, the Joker, played by Heath Ledger, is supposed to just walk away from the explosion. That's it. Simple and straightforward. Joker presses the detonator, the hospital explodes behind him, and he walks away. But the maniac decided the detonator would malfunction. He presses it. Nothing happens. He pauses, looks at it, confused, and then clicks it again. Still nothing. He fidgets with it, like a confused brat trying to figure out a broken toy, and then, boom, the hospital explodes. Only then does our guy walk away, almost startled by his own success, then settling into that disturbing skip. That confusion wasn't written. It was Ledger finding a new dimension to the character. The Joker isn't just chaos incarnate. He is surprised when chaos doesn't go exactly as planned. Christopher Nolan had it storyboard exactly that way. Clean explosion, clean exit, but Ledger made it unpredictable. Here's what most movie lovers don't know. There was a real slight delay in the explosion due to a technical issue with the pyrotechnics, but Ledger stayed in character through the malfunction. He turned a production problem into a character-defining moment. That's instinct, that's craft, and that's an actor so deep in character that reality and performance become indistinguishable. Personally, this is my favorite Joker moment in any Batman film. These moments don't change the plot, they change how we understand who these people are. And once you understand a character differently, the whole film shifts. But what happens when an improvisation completely rewrites what a scene even means? And this takes us to our next level. Level 3. Impulses. Good Will Hunting. This emotional drama follows a troubled janitor at MIT who is secretly a mathematical genius and needs therapy to confront his painful past. In the therapy session, Sean Maguire, who is played by Robin Williams, is trying to break through Will's defenses. The scene was supposed to be serious. It's tense, emotional, and structured around getting Will to open up about his trauma. But suddenly, Williams just started yapping. He talked about his dead wife farting in her sleep, and how it was so loud it woke the dog. How she blamed the dog even though they both knew the truth. Matt Damon's laughter in the scene was completely genuine. He is laughing so hard he can barely breathe. Director Gus Van Sant kept the camera rolling because he knew something special was happening. The script called for a serious, emotional breakthrough, and Williams gave them that, but through laughter instead of tears. The improvisation transformed the entire relationship between those characters. It made Sean human instead of just a wise therapist figure. It showed Will that vulnerability doesn't have to be painful. It can be joyful, funny, and loving, and it made the emotional payoff later in the film hit 10 times harder because we'd seen these two men laugh together first. Honestly, the scene makes me cry and laugh at the same time when I watch it. And you know what else makes me cry and laugh? Subscribing to the channel. Just saying. Turning drama into comedy is one thing, but what about when an actor makes horror funny at the worst possible time? The Shining. In this psychological horror film, a writer takes his family to an isolated hotel for winter and slowly loses his grip on reality. During the act scene, Jack Torrance, the nutcase writer, played by Jack Nicholson, is breaking through the bathroom door. The script just said, Jack's break through the door with an axe. And that's it. No specific dialogue, just violence. Director Kubrick had shot the scene dozens of times already, trying to get it right. The door breaking itself took 3 days because Nicholson kept breaking through too quickly. He'd done carpentry work in his youth and knew how to demolish a door efficiently, so they had to get weaker doors. Then, during one take, Nicholson stuck his face through the hole like a creep and referenced Ed McMahon's famous introduction for Johnny Carson. Here's Johnny, and suddenly, a horror film had a line that transcended genre. It's terrifying and absurdly funny at the same time. Kubrick loved it because it makes Jack's madness feel more unhinged and unpredictable. This wasn't calculated violence. This was a man so detached from reality that he's making talk show references while trying to murder his family. The Shining works because it's never quite one thing. It's horror, it's dark comedy, it's a psychological breakdown, and a supernatural threat. The line also aged perfectly, as younger audiences who never watched Johnny Carson still know here's Johnny because of this scene. The improvisation outlived its own reference point, and I personally respect Kubrick's perfectionism, as sometimes chaos is better than control. But mixing horror and comedy is amateur hour, compared to what happens when a single improvised line breaks through the fourth wall and lives forever. Get a chilled beer while we talk about a catchphrase that defines an entire decade of our next level. Taxi Driver. This thriller follows a mentally unstable Vietnam veteran who drives a New York taxi at night and becomes increasingly obsessed with violence violence and redemption. In the mirror scene, Travis Bickle, the crazy veteran, who is played by Robert De Niro, is talking to himself in the mirror. The script, written by Paul Schrader, just said, Travis talks to himself in the mirror. But one of the greatest filmmakers to have walked the earth, Martin Scorsese, told De Niro to fill it in, however he wanted, to find Travis Bickle's voice in that moment of isolated preparation for violence. So, De Niro created one of the most iconic scenes in American cinema. You talking to me? You talking to me? Then who the hell else are you talking to? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. The repetition, the posturing, the gun movement, and the mirror make the whole scene menacing and pathetic at the same time. It's a man practicing violence because he has no one else to talk to. That improvisation became the defining image of 1970 cinema. An entire generation of film students has recreated that scene in their own work and has been parodied hundreds of times. Everyone from Jim Carrey in The Mask to Robert Downey Jr. has done their version. The scene also influenced how method acting was perceived in Hollywood, showing that giving actors freedom could produce something more powerful than any writer could script. Call me crazy, but I think this is the most important improvisation in film history. However, creating a single iconic moment is one thing. Let's talk about when one iconic line becomes the entire identity of a billion-dollar movie, Titanic. In this 1997 epic romance, a penniless artist and a wealthy young woman fall desperately in love aboard the doomed ocean liner's maiden voyage. During the iconic boat scene, Jack Dawson, the broke artist, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is standing at the front of the ship. Canadian filmmaker James Cameron didn't write, "I'm the king of the world." The script had different, more reserved dialogue for the moment. Something about freedom, about feeling alive, standard romantic movie stuff. But DiCaprio was caught up in the energy of the moment. They were filming on a massive recreation of the Titanic's bow, wind machines blowing, and the ocean stretching out before them. The moment felt huge, and DiCaprio just threw his arms out and yelled it, "I'm the king of the world." Cameron, watching on monitors, immediately knew it was perfect. It captured everything the scene needed to convey: youth, freedom, and most importantly, invincibility. 25 years later, it's still one of the most quoted movie lines ever. People scream it on boats, at weddings, at graduations, and when they accomplish something big. The line also works because of the dramatic irony. Jack feels like the king of the world, but we know the ship is doomed, and he'll be dead in a few days. That contrast between his joy and our knowledge makes the line heartbreaking and triumphant all at once. I'll never forget hearing people yell this at my high school graduation. It was memorable. Becoming a catchphrase is impressive, but on the next level, we're diving right into what happens when improvisation doesn't just save a scene, but saves an entire film from mediocrity. Level 5. Blade Runner. This neo-noir science fiction masterpiece is about a detective who hunts rogue artificial humans in a rain-soaked dystopian Los Angeles. At the end of the film, Roy Beatty, an intelligent artificial human who leads a group of replicants back to Earth, played by Rutger Hauer, delivers his final monologue. The original scripted speech by screenwriter David Peoples was longer, more expository, and didn't work emotionally. It explained too much about Roy's experiences, his feelings about dying, and his thoughts on mortality. It was well written, but it told you how to feel, instead of making you feel it. Director Ridley Scott immediately knew something was off during rehearsals. The scene felt flat, technical, and cold, but they were running out of time and money, so Howard took the script back to his trailer the night before filming. He rewrote it completely and cut it down from a full page to just a few devastating lines. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
When Howard delivered it on set the next day, the crew was silent. Scott knew immediately that this was the soul of the entire film, and that improvisation didn't just save the scene, it saved Blade Runner from being just a visually stunning but emotionally empty sci-fi noir. Howard's rewrite gave the replicants humanity, and it made Roy Beatty's death matter. It turned a villain into a tragic figure, reaching for meaning in his final moments. The line has been studied, quoted, and analyzed for 40 years because it captures something universal about mortality and memory. Personally, this monologue gives me chills every single time. Saving one scene is powerful, but what about when improvisation creates the most awkward moment in romantic comedy history? Which takes us to the next example, When Harry Met Sally. This 1989 romantic comedy follows two friends who spend years debating whether men and women can truly be platonic. In the restaurant scene, Sally Albright, played by Meg Ryan, fakes an orgasm to prove a point to Harry. The fake orgasm wasn't fully scripted in its intensity or duration. The script just said, Sally fakes an orgasm, but director Rob Reiner told Ryan to really go for it and commit to the bit. The specific sounds, the escalation, the increasing volume and intensity, that was all Ryan improvising in the moment. She just kept going, pushing it further and further, making it more and more absurd and uncomfortable. The other diners in the restaurant were extras who weren't told exactly what was going to happen. Their reactions of shock, embarrassment, and confusion were genuine. Then Estelle Reiner, the director's own mother, who was cast as an extra, delivered the now famous improvised line after watching the whole performance. "I'll have what she's having."
I'll have what she's having.
That wasn't written either. She just said it, and Rob Reiner kept it in because the collision of his mother's perfect comedic timing with Ryan's fearless performance was pure magic. The scene saved what could have been an awkward, embarrassing moment and turned it into one of the most iconic moments in romantic comedy history. Ryan's commitment to the improvisation made it work, but if she'd held back even slightly, it would have failed. Saving a rom-com scene is brilliant work, but on the next level, improvisation was so bold, it didn't just fix something, it hijacked the entire story. Level 6. Midnight Cowboy. In this gritty drama, a naive Texan hustler moves to New York dreaming of easy money, but discovers the brutal reality of survival. During a street crossing scene, Ratso Rizzo, who is played by Dustin Hoffman, and Joe Buck are walking across 6th Avenue in Manhattan. The scene was supposed to be simple, just two characters crossing the street, talking about survival in New York, discussing where they'll sleep that night. Basic dialogue. They were shooting guerrilla style with no permits and no street closures. Director John Schlesinger wanted the authenticity of real New York, so they just grabbed shots quickly with hidden cameras. Then a real taxi, driven by a real driver who had no idea they were filming a movie, almost hit them. The cab ran a red light and came within inches of Hoffman and Jon Voight. And instead of breaking character, instead of stopping the scene and yelling at the driver, Hoffman smacked the hood of the cab and yelled, "I'm walking here! I'm walking here!" Schlesinger kept rolling as he knew immediately that this unscripted moment was perfect, more perfect than anything he could have planned. That improvisation became the most quoted line in the entire film. More importantly, it crystallized who Ratso Rizzo was in a single moment, a scrappy survivor, fighting to just exist in a city that doesn't care if he lives or dies. I'll never understand how Hoffman stayed in character through almost getting killed, but hijacking narrative balance is child's play. What about when one improvisation completely redefines how an entire character fights? Raiders of the Lost Ark. This adventure classic is about an archaeologist, Indiana Jones, who races the Nazis across the globe to recover the mystical Ark of the Covenant. In the Cairo marketplace scene, Indiana Jones, played by legendary Harrison Ford, faces off against a swordsman. The script had an elaborate sword fight choreographed between Indiana Jones and the Cairo swordsman. They'd spent days rehearsing the sequence, and it was supposed to be an impressive display of whip work versus swordplay, showcasing Indy's skills and creativity in combat. The fight choreographer had worked out every move, and the stunt team had practiced for weeks. Then came the day of filming. Ford had severe food poisoning from eating local street food. He was exhausted, sick, dehydrated, and couldn't perform the complicated 5-minute fight scene in the Egyptian heat. Between takes, he was running to the bathroom, as he could barely stand up. So he went to Steven Spielberg and said, "Why don't I just shoot him?" Spielberg laughed, but they decided to give it a shot. So Ford, pulling out his gun, looked annoyed, and shot the swordsman dead in one take. The entire crew erupted in applause, and that improvisation completely changed the tone of Indiana Jones as a character. He's not an honorable fighter who engages everyone on their terms, as he is practical, pragmatic, efficient, and he doesn't bloody care about looking cool or giving his opponent a fair fight. The improvisation also became one of the most beloved moments in the entire franchise, and the funniest moment in any action movie ever. Quote me anywhere, but before you do that, wait until we talk about our final level, where a single improvised line changes not just a movie, but an entire billion-dollar franchise. Level 7. The Empire Strikes Back. In this dark sequel, the Rebel Alliance is hunted across the galaxy, while Luke Skywalker trains to face his destiny against Darth Vader. In the confrontation scene, Darth Vader, voiced by James Earl Jones, reveals a shocking truth to Luke Skywalker. The original script said, "Obi-Wan killed your father." That was the twist Lucas had written. That's what David Prowse, the actor inside the Vader costume, delivered on set during filming. But George Lucas and director Irvin Kershner knew that twist would leak before the film's release. as the script was circulating among dozens of crew members, extras, and studio executives, so they made a secret change. Lucas decided Vader would reveal he's Luke's father instead.
He told me you killed. No. I am the father.
A much more powerful, emotionally devastating twist. But they didn't tell anyone except Kirshner, Hamill, and James Earl Jones, who would record the voice months later in post-production. So on set, Prowse delivered the fake line, and Hamill acted accordingly, reacting to words the audience would never hear. So months later, James Earl Jones recorded the real line in a sound booth. No, I am your father. That change transformed Star Wars from a simple hero's journey into a mythic saga about family, legacy, and redemption. 3 sequels, a prequel trilogy, multiple animated series, and decades of expanded universe storytelling all pivot on that one line. One improvised line change created a 40-year franchise worth billions of dollars and changed how audiences think about heroes and villains. I'll never forget hearing this reveal for the first time in theaters, which brings me to another line I will also never forget. Iron Man. This original Marvel story follows billionaire weapons manufacturer Tony Stark, who escapes terrorists in a high-tech suit and must decide what kind of hero he'll become. At the press conference, Tony Stark, played by beloved Robert Downey Jr., is supposed to deny his identity as Iron Man. The script had told Tony to deny he was Iron Man and maintain a secret identity. This followed the standard superhero movie template. Heroes hide behind masks, maintain secret identities, and keep their loved ones safe by remaining anonymous. Every superhero movie, from Superman, Spider-Man, to Batman, had followed this formula, but Downey felt it was wrong for the character they built. Tony Stark wouldn't hide. He was too rich to do that. So during filming, Downey kept pushing for something different. He suggested various alternatives, and finally, on the take that made it into the film, he improvised the ending. The truth is, I am Iron Man. Director Jon Favreau loved it, and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige loved it. They kept it in the final cut, and that one improvised line changed the entire trajectory of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It established that MCU heroes don't hide behind masks and secret identities. Tony Stark's decision to reveal his identity set the template for how every other MCU hero would operate. They'd be known, public, and deal with the consequences. That decision shaped 20-plus films and hundreds of billions of dollars in box office revenue. It influenced Black Panther being a public king, Captain America being a public figure, and Thor operating openly. Downey's improvisation didn't just define Tony Stark, it defined the entire philosophical approach of the most successful film franchise in history, and honestly, I can't imagine the MCU working any other way now. These improvisations don't just change movies, they change what movies can become. And they prove that sometimes the best creative decisions happen when you throw away the plan and trust the moment. If you love this breakdown, subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that made film history. We've got tons more coming.